The Super Bowl may be over, but Tracker remains, and can it continue to make those game-winning touchdowns? Welcome back, guys, to Fog Entertainment here to review Tracker Season 1, Episode 2. This one is called Missoula, and it is coming off a pretty strong premiere that came after the Super Bowl. 18 million people checked out episode 1, and I thought episode 1 was pretty damn good. I gave it an 8 out of 10. What will I give episode 2? Then we are going to find out. But episode 1 did a good job of introducing Colter Shaw. I think it did a good job of introducing the other background characters too. It gave you a little bit of a backstory to his family. We got flashbacks. We seen him do what he does, and that is obviously track people down. He is a reward seeker. And I think episode 1 did a really good job of being fast-paced and covering a lot of the action. Episode 2, was it as good? I'm not convinced. We left episode 1 with a lot of questions, not many answers about Colter Shaw's family and his past. Episode 2 didn't really answer any of them, to be honest, and we were missing a couple of characters. We were missing the lawyer, Trini, also the hot cop from the first one wasn't in this, and I've got a bad feeling that maybe going forward and maybe for the entire show it might just be like one and done. I think each episode is going to focus on a particular set of characters, a particular case, and while we're going to have the main character, we're going to have Colter Shaw, we're going to have his group, we're going to have his family, but for the most part I think that most episodes are just going to be one and done with characters. I think we're going to have characters that are simply there for one episode, and then their story will be wrapped up, and that we will not see a continuation of them in the show, which I'm not personally a big fan of. I think it's hard to just do like random, like one-off episodes and always introducing new characters, always introducing a new subplot. I know Supernatural kind of did that, and it's the one thing I think kind of held Supernatural back, because at best every episode you were kind of just getting like 40-45 minutes to get introduced to new characters, and then while you were kind of learning who's who, they just disappear. So there's no real like continuation, and I think that's how Tracker's going to be. Now that doesn't mean the show can't be good, but I do think there's an element certainly missing when every episode you're seeing new faces and old faces are just gone. So we will see what happens. But this one, Colter Shaw has to track down a 27-year-old kid. His parents have reported him missing. He goes to their house, and at first Colter Shaw doesn't think he's missing. He thinks that he's just left to be with a woman. Now they show him a picture of this woman, and she's quite a bit older than their 27-year-old son. She's like a lot older. So he decides to do some investigating, because the guy is completely went off the ranks. There's just no sign of him. He's closed his bank accounts. He's left his job. And it turns out, after doing investigation, that he has been captured, essentially kidnapped. He's had his money taken by this cult-like group called Positive Light, and essentially they take in everybody that has got any sort of worth to them, and they bring in Jackson because he was good financially, and they basically just do fraud. They steal money, they manipulate. So they brought in Jackson. Rebecca, who is the female antagonist in this episode, she is like the female leader of Positive Light. I believe she's married to the main man behind it, Seth. So initially she was the one dating Jackson. She pretends to be with him, pretends to be in love with him, gets him to pack his job in, gets him to leave his family, and she gets him to come and be this cult member of Positive Light. And they take all the members' money and they basically just put it all into their own account, and then they get all the cult members working for them. So it's essentially just this big massive fraud movement, and they take everyone's money and they steal them and they keep them hostage in this like camp in the middle of nowhere, and if you leave they will kill you. And one of the guys that was a cult member tried to leave and he got killed. So Colter Shaw manages to track them down. He does a bit of investigating. We get some fights with some security guards, got some like fight scenes, action scenes, got some sit downs with Colter and Seth wouldn't let Colter talk to Jackson unless he told him a truth about his past, and for some reason Seth knew quite a lot about Colter and his family, and more importantly his father. Now that was the only time Seth's father was really touched upon in this episode. We didn't get any flashbacks or anything like that, but we did get Seth, who was the leader of this cult group, and he seemed to know about Colter. So I'm not too sure how. Colter suggested Google searches and Google background checks, but he seemed to know everything, and it was kind of weird. And in the end, he was trying to play mind games with Colter, but Colter didn't really buy it. Then after the talk, he says, "I've took one of your secrets," and he like burns himself with this like pickaxe. So some freaky shit going on here. Colter tries to get Jackson to go back to his family, but he's brainwashed. He won't do it. Then later that night, Colter's getting tracked, and he manages to turn the tables on one of the guys that was following him, and he gets one of the security guys to take him to Seth's cabin, where he manages to sneak in. He finds information, he finds photos and images of the murder that they committed on the guy that tried to leave the cult, and also Jackson is there. So Jackson was trying to leave, he was trying to escape, but they wouldn't let him escape, so they were keeping him trapped in Seth's cabin. Colter gets in, rescues Jackson, but he gets held at gunpoint by Rebecca, and at this point Jackson just freaks out. He realizes that she's been lying to him, and she tackles her to the ground. The gun goes flying. Colter then starts brawling with the security guy, starts brawling with Seth, and he manages to get to the gun first, and then the police arrive, and we see Rebecca and Seth being arrested. Colter takes Jackson back to his family. They are reunited, and Colter also stole a file from Steph's cabin. It was a file on himself. So Colter now has a file, and maybe this file will tell him what he doesn't know about his father, because Seth did say in the sit down that he had that his mother wasn't being truthful to him, and that his mother wasn't being completely honest about what happened with his father. So Seth seemed to know all of this. Colter obviously doesn't know any of it. We don't know any of it. That's kind of the big story that came out of episode 1, and they didn't really focus on it much in episode 2. I was kind of hoping they would, but unfortunately they didn't. And then the episode kind of ends with Colter just driving off, and it's a pretty weird ending. I didn't think it offered much. I was expecting more of a cliffhanger. We didn't get that. And the beginning of the episode just started with Colter with his mom, and he basically stayed the night because she was panicking that someone was trying to break in to his father's workplace, or his former workplace. So could that be his brother Russell? They'll get into contact with him in episode 1. It might have been, but look, episode 2, it was okay. The protagonists were not the antagonists, sorry, they were pretty generic. They were just your like average kind of cult group. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't a horrible episode by any means. I thought it was pretty decent, so I'm going to get a 6 out of 10, guys. Again, it was solid, but not as good as the premiere, unfortunately, and I was kind of hoping for more answers. And also, the other characters, like Teddy, and forget the names of them, but anyway, the crew, Colter's crew that help him, I would like to see them focused a little bit more on the show, especially Bob, the one that he interacts with, the computer hacker with no legs. I think the dialogue and the chemistry between him and Colter Shaw is pretty good, it's pretty funny, but you don't really get to see him much in the episode. He maybe gets like a minute at most, so I'd like to see more engagement with those characters. But yeah, I'll get a 6 out of 10, guys. That is it for Tracker. I'm going to go and see the promo now for episode 3, and I will upload the reaction to that on the channel pretty soon. So yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts. I'm getting a 6 out of 10, 8 out of 10 for the premiere, 6 out of 10 for episode 2. Decent start for Tracker, so we'll see what happens in episode 3, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Till then, though, peace.